So you need to produce limitless content. And today I'm going to give you 3 steps to unlimited ideas so that you're able to produce content on a consistent basis. This conversation is inspired by the one and only great YouTube guru, Omar El Takori. This is one content creator that I follow limitlessly, and he has helped me a lot in terms of being able to produce consistent content for my own channel. Omar has helped me to produce at least one piece of content on a weekly basis, which is the perfect amount of consistency for a busy individual like myself and like yourself. You need at least one piece of long form content each week. Unless, of course, your goal is to produce short form, but people learn best from long term repetition. But what does that mean for you as a content creator? How do you come up with the ideas to produce at least one piece of content on a weekly basis? Well, I'm going to talk about it with you. The very first thing that Omar mentioned, which I was so grateful for, and as you can see, I've upgraded my tiny whiteboard to a medium-sized whiteboard. But then as soon as that happened, my tripod broke. And so it might seem a little bit far. I'm ordering a new tripod, so these videos will hopefully get better and clearer and have more quality, okay? But follow along for now. Make sure you grab a notebook or leave the notes down in a comment about what you're picking up from these gems that I'm dropping today. All right, so the first thing that you want to do is to talk about what you're obsessed about. This is a really big step. I've been pretty much studying YouTube content consistently for at least the last 2 years. I've been more disciplined with producing content, definitely with over the last year. And the information has changed so much. I mean, social media marketing is just as volatile as the stock market, if you ask me. It's constantly changing, but we're focusing on the YouTube platform because this is YouTube University. This is the one space that people come to learn over and over again about a particular thing. And obviously, YouTube is global, okay? And so, what I've learned over time was to take something that you can niche down and talk about, right? Something that you know really well. You want to be able to create a vehicle that delivers this information about this one specific type of content. That's changed. You no longer need to necessarily niche down on your content. You can, but you don't have to. That information has changed so much over time. So even when I used to offer YouTube classes, I've had to change the product that I would sell with those classes because I specifically was speaking about niching down on content. And now that information is outdated. And that was just a year ago or a year and a half ago, right? So we went from talking about niching down on content. The advice was also given to, hey, you don't know what to talk about? Well, use YouTube as your search engine. What are people constantly looking up, right? Because as entrepreneurs, right, when we want to create value for people, and the way that we do that is by helping people to solve their problems, right? So in order to do that, we need to know what problems people are having. And YouTube search engine is a great way to identify what people are searching constantly. And then you get to help them provide a solution to those problems. Of course, you still want it to be authentic to you. So for me, I do not know anything about fixing cars, but I know that that is something that is consistently searched on YouTube. But that's not going to be my choice, my niche, or even a topic for a day that I'm going to give advice on in terms of solving someone's issue, right? However, I am going to talk about something that I absolutely know instead, and something that I am absolutely obsessed about. So we no longer need to talk about a niched down piece of information or topic, and we no longer need to only use YouTube search engine as a support system to look up what people are constantly researching. You can still do this on your preferred topic, something that you already know and have credentials, right? You have credibility for knowing, right? You can still do that as a support system, but those are not the only two ways to identify people's problems, okay, and how you can help them. How you can help a particular person through something that you know really well is to talk about what you're obsessed about. Now, this was really eye-opening for me because I've always had two channels. I decided to focus on this one channel and use it as an experimentation so that I can help myself and I can help others. And what I found was that my other channel would actually suffice really well for my larger community. Built by Community, that is the name of my second channel, because I have a large fitness community and people are constantly searching health, right? The top 3 topics that people are constantly Googling, whether it's directly through Google search engine or whether it's through YouTube, is going to be health, wealth, and relationships, right? People want to know about love, they want to know about money, and then they want to talk about their health. And so Built by Community is specific to health, right? And guess what? I am obsessed with fitness. I am obsessed with health. So one of the topics for me, for example, I'm going to turn this into a box. One of my topics that I'd constantly talk about would be fitness. And guess what? I will never run out of things to talk about fitness. Why? Because it's not just an interest for me, and it's not simply because I know that this is one of the top 3 things that people are constantly searching. It is because I am obsessed with fitness myself. I do it for myself, and I've done it for countless other people, right? I help busy professionals every day achieve their dream body goals, right? Now, if I wanted to focus on a niche, I can, because I specifically help busy professional women over the age of 30 achieve their dream body goals in a short amount of time, right? So that's my niche. Also, how else don't I run out of ideas to speak about on fitness? There's so many different types of fitness, right? So it's not just a general or generic idea to where it's like it's a saturated market. There are so many fitness coaches. I mean, you can look up how to lose weight, how to lose belly fat, how to lose weight after having a baby, how to gain strength, how to eat more protein, all of these things, right? It's a saturated market. Any one of those topics you look up, you're going to see pages, long lists of content creators. However, I don't let that discourage me because I know that the conversations that I'm having is unique to me and my community. And these are things I talk about with people every day and I help people with every day. So it doesn't even matter. The whole purpose is to make sure that we are being consistent with content. We're not worried about what other content creators are doing. We are simply serving our community and the problems that they already have. And then we're utilizing the feedback from our analytics or from the conversations that we're having to make our channel better. So for fitness, I can talk about physical fitness, there's emotional fitness, mental fitness, spiritual fitness. There's 4 different types of fitness that I can speak about. It's impossible for me to run out of things to say, especially because I actually study, right? And I am doing these things for myself in each one of these categories. I am experimenting in each one of these categories for myself and with other people. So it's impossible for me to run out of topics to talk about on fitness. Another topic is impossible for me to run out of ideas to speak about because I am obsessed with it, is spirituality. More importantly, universal principles. It is something that I'm absolutely obsessed with. Okay, so even for me, what I realized that the other things I want to talk about on this channel would be around this. Why? Because it is more niche content, because I don't see people like myself speaking on this topic, and because I have also experimented and had testimonials between me and my community that has had results of success to some problems that they've had in their lives. Stick around for, actually subscribe and hit the notification bell to see some of this content that I'm talking about, because this is real stuff, right? So now I'm realizing like, oh, this is not just value for me. I get to produce this value for other people. So these 2 things, I realized that I can talk about all day long and feel energized, not drained. I can find solutions for myself and for others. Other people feel energized. Other people feel inspired and motivated by these conversations. So it's definitely something that I want to share because I can see that it's creating value for other people. So that was the first step. Talk about what you're obsessed about. not just what you know. And it's okay to pivot from this point if you are a chef, a yoga instructor, or a doctor. If you're not obsessed with what you're speaking about, you're not going to have unlimited ideas. You're going to be like, what should I talk about this week? That might still come up for you, even if you're obsessed, because I mean, I'm overwhelmed with the topics that I have to speak about, right? But I still get to choose one. It's just how I deliver, right? The way that I deliver the content is important because it's for you, it's for the audience. So that's what matters most, okay? So even if you're in one of those fields and this is what you do, it's okay to pivot. You might still really love that thing, but are you obsessed with it? Are you obsessed with helping people solve their problems with that thing that you're obsessed about? That's what's important, okay? So that was step number 1. Here we go with number 2. So get your notebooks, get your pens, get your papers ready, or get ready to type down in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Hit the notification bell if you haven't already. When you snooze, you lose. You understand? All right, so number 2. You're going to talk about what you already talk to yourself and others about. You're going to talk about what you already talk to yourself and others about. A lot of times we're looking for topics to speak about. Talk about what you're already talking about with other people, right? If you care about it and you're able to find one other person to talk about it with who's going to listen or exchange their opinions, right, or facts with you on that same topic, there are thousands, at least thousands of other people who are also willing to listen and to engage in this conversation. So if it's not just one other person, are you paying attention to your own thoughts? What you speak about with yourself also counts to deliver as information to other people. So this is not just what you're talking about with other people, but this is also paying attention to your own thoughts. You are filled with bright ideas all the time. And sure, I'm not talking about something that you're about to invent and create and that you're spreading it amongst other people, even though you might want to gather some feedback around that before you do it or as you are on that journey. But I'm speaking about what actually comes up in your mind. Like, I had an idea to write a book on a particular topic, right? And before I actually started to write that book, I needed to have that conversation with other people to see what they thought about it, right? Why? Because then that lets me know exactly what to put in the book, first and foremost, and how that people are already finding value in this conversation verbally. So that means that they'll find value in the conversation in text, right? So I literally mean the conversations that you're having with yourself and with other people, you want to talk about, right? What is interesting to one, you're gonna find is actually interesting to many people, not just you, okay? I want you to talk about not just what you're thinking about, but also what you're dreaming about. Like daydreaming. Some people might have this in their night dreams, but daydreaming. What are you actually daydreaming about all night long? Right? You want to have that as a conversation, right? And again, this is considering what you already know, what you have credentials in already or experience in already. And or even if that's new, right? It's okay to be honest and transparent with your audience and talk about how this thing is new for you, and they could come along with you on that journey. Perfectly fine. But something that you've been daydreaming about already, you want to have that conversation as well with your audience, okay? You want to be able to share that. So, what are you thinking about? What are you dreaming about? Literally and figuratively. What are the conversations that you're already having with other people? This is what you want to turn into content. What you're thinking about and what you're dreaming about. That's really simple. We're already at the third step. So, the third thing is to give advice to many. Give advice to many. Now, we've had this conversation before in this webinar as well, is that we want to sell one to many, right? We don't just want to sell our products to one person, or we don't want to stand on the corner and hopefully speak to a few people, which we know a bunch would be no's before there's a yes, right? That's a part of the strategy, but also a greater part of the strategy is to speak to many people, which is why content is so important, because you can record a piece of content today and then wake up tomorrow and see that 12 people viewed that piece of content, right? And then you get to look at how many people stayed for how long, and you get to analyze that data and then make your pivots and changes so that you could progress from there, right? And as your content gets better over time, you'll see that the amount of views and the click durations and how long people stay and watch that piece of content, how that changes over time. And then you'll eventually see that you're speaking to one to many around the world, right? So that's why content is so important. Now, that's selling one to many, but the same concept goes as talking, just talking, okay? We want to give advice to many. The way that I do this, specifically in my fitness business, and then on this channel as well, but specifically in my fitness business, is a conversation that I have with someone in person. I then turn it into a conversation that I have. I put in virtual, y'all. Virtually. Because once again, we're going to assume that if you and one other person can exchange conversation on one particular topic, that there are hundreds, at minimum thousands of people that are willing to engage on the same topic, that has an opinion, or that has facts, or that has inquiries on the same topic. So it'll literally do us a disservice to not take a conversation that we're having with one person and then to have it with many people virtually. We give advice not just to one, but to many when we do it virtually. So for example, I get a lot of questions around protein, around creatine, around targeting belly fat, around the way to use a scale. And I answer those questions in person, right? Or I give them some supplemental material that's going to help them along on their personal journey. But then I also come back and then have a conversation with you all about the same topic, because I can assume that many women, right, or many people are asking the same questions. In fact, a lot of times I get the same question in person from different people. So I might have that conversation 5 times within 1 month on the same topic. So that is letting me know there are more people that want to have this conversation. And so I should definitely turn that into a piece of content. I should definitely make it virtual and have that conversation, because many people are going to receive the value from it. It's that simple, y'all. It's that simple. You have a conversation with one person. You turn it into many people by having that conversation again. You're just going to bullet point at least 3 things. I mean, maybe it's one thing. That's okay. It is what it is, right? We're not going to force something that's not there. But it's good to do it in steps, right? Maybe you have 3 steps of a how-to, or maybe you have one specific thing that people are missing to this to this particular topic, and so that's what you share. That's perfectly fine. Maybe you have 5, 7, or 10 steps to get to a goal that you can actually map out and follow, right? Now, you don't have to give all of that away in your piece of content. Maybe you just start with one, or you go to three, or your max is five. And then if you want the other five, then they can reach out to you through a discovery call, or maybe you have a template and a guide to share with them, right? But that takes them into the next step because we always have a call to action in our content, right? But that's it, y'all. We give advice to many people, right? So the conversations that we're already having, we just turn that into content. We talk about what we're obsessed about because we're talking about it anyway. The only difference is that we need to turn the camera on, right? We need to record it. And that was actually one thing that I didn't get to mention in step 2, okay? What you're dreaming about, what you're thinking about with yourself or with other people, you want to record that, right? So if it's with other people, obviously you would need to ask for permission. But even if you're just taking written pieces of their testimony and you're putting that in your content, you can ask for permission for that too, or you can recap your conversation that you've had with a person anonymously and then talk about that in your content. You just want to take the conversations that you're having with yourself inside of your mind already, or that you're having with another person, right? Maybe you're sitting in a car, maybe you're walking in a park, maybe you're at a dinner table, and you want to record that conversation and turn it into your content. And then finally, instead of just giving advice to one person, after you do that, you want to give advice to many by also recording that, turning it into content, making sure that you're listing out at least one thing that your audience is missing, or 3 steps on how to get to a particular solution, right? To a particular goal that's going to help them with your advice. Y'all, this is what I do every day for countless people, and I've had so much success. And success is defined differently amongst us all, right? Success is subjective. I find it successful if I'm able to have a conversation with someone, and then that recap actually turns into a template. More advice that I could give to many, right? Or that turns into a piece of content that I could deliver, again, one to many instead, right? I've had so much success in being able to show myself as an expert and credit myself as an authority in this space. So then people want to work with me one-on-one, and that converts, right? So that conversation converts to a sale. And sometimes, y'all, if I don't have time to have a conversation with people and they're asking about something specific, because I've turned it into content already, I don't have to stand there and have the conversation with them. I get to direct them to my YouTube channel to watch for the solution, to watch for the answer. And then if they want to connect further with me, I already have the call to action in the content so that they can reach out to me by clicking a link in the description, by creating a discovery call with me after they've already answered their own question by watching the content that I'm in, right? That I've produced. So all in all, y'all, there is absolutely no way to run out of content when you're talking about something that you know, when you're talking about something that you're obsessed with, that you're talking about something that you already give advice about, right? You don't want to create multiple topics. You want to choose 3 topics and talk about those 3 topics in 100 different ways. That's what I mentioned with my fitness, right? So my 3 topics, again, would be physical fitness, it'll be mental fitness, and then it'll be spiritual fitness. And then I would talk about those things in hundreds of different ways. I'm not going to shift from any of those things. I'm just going to continue to talk about those things in different ways. Even if I've already had a conversation with creatine before, there's so many other things that I could have a conversation with creatine about, or protein about, or a particular exercise about, right? Or on spirituality about. So I hope you find this message to be insightful. Any of the gems that you've taken away from this topic today, I want you to drop it down in the comments below. Give me a like if you did like this content so that I know and I can produce more like it. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button so that you know when I drop more content like this. Hit that notification bell for me, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.